Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Office Hours. Unfortunately, again this week it's just me. Slavo is away in Milan enjoying himself, and Flo is on paternity leave. So it's just me again this week. Hey Anton, how's it going? If you have a question, by the way, Anton, feel free to ask away. That's what the office hours is for. If you have any questions at all, that's what I'm here for. No worries. I shall put the link to join me in the chat. You're more than welcome to join me and we can go through it. If not, just post your questions in the chat and we can go through it that way, whatever's more comfortable. Okay, when you say it failed, you mean as in you got an error, like some kind of error in the generation? Or isn't it failed as in it just didn't do what you wanted it to? It created another component. Okay. Could you tell me exactly what you're trying to do? And then I can I'll share my screen and we can go through it on my side. What is it exactly we're trying to create? Instead of a 2D matrix, it created a counter. Okay. So you were trying to create a 2D matrix? Or have you got kind of an example of what you were trying to create? I can perhaps try and do it on my side, see if we can get it working. Cool. Hey Anton, how's it going?
Hi, it goes well, and finally I can join your open
Yes.
house.
Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
last time I was trying to get all the information from you, but
No,
still,
no worries. It's good. It's always easier to do it in person.
yeah. I can share my screen.
Yes, go for it.
Uh, somehow I can.
There should be
Yeah,
yeah.
I need to mute my YouTube. Hear myself twice. Boom, boom. So I have a component here.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to go to playground. Boom, boom, boom. This one. So I asked to create from this component just like an open. Now it can show the old conversation. I selected this component, asked AI to create a component from this component, saving all the settings and including all the functions, if possible, to make it independent from the global variables and
Yeah.
etc. But it created me a counter with the first iteration, and then it created a grid matrix, which is kind of funny, but
So I think so. What's probably happened is because your initial one, the one you were trying to replicate, it's a no-code
yeah,
component, right?
yeah. I want to create a coded component from the from no-code component. Is it possible now?
No, unfortunately. So this is one of the limitations. The AI has no knowledge of your no-code components, so it can't interact with them in any way. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be able to do this just yet.
So the only way to somehow export or use this component is to share it via the library and so on.
Exactly, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the only way right now.
Got it. I still can't remember which project had this problem with the drop down, where the drop down didn't follow the width of the components. Maybe I'll try to show you.
Cool.
Not here, not here, not here. Can't remember my password. Another account.
It's never easy when you're doing it live.
And we had it somewhere. We had it somewhere here. Where's my edit button? No code and low code gives you a lot of opportunities, but the main cons from this is that the client can do anything.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't noticed anything. Edit mode. Yeah, I think we had it here. And maybe that's because it was an outdated component.
I think you mentioned this last week, right? It was something to do with the width, wasn't
Yeah, but I can find it.
Okay.
Where I needed to create this component from the scratch and needed to somehow work around this. Later select with I think it was something like this, but I can't remember.
So you got it to work?
Yeah, I just used this instance and then took parent node and then parent node and then client with.
Okay. So, but it wasn't I guess it wasn't. It doesn't sound like it was the most straightforward thing in the world to get it working.
Yeah, I've solved this. Okay, let's for now let's skip it because I can't find it.
Okay, no worries.
It was. Thank you. I have no questions for
Really?
now.
I think you're the only person in here today. So if there is any questions, we've got all the time in the world, I think.
It's hard to remember.
No worries.
Last time I started with a notebook, having all the questions, and still had some questions which I couldn't formulate and figure out.
No worries. Well, if you think of any, you're more than welcome to join again. I'll be here for the next hour or so.
Thank you.
Cool. No worries. See you soon. Hey, Will. You have a question, Will? You're more than welcome to ask away. No worries at all. Yeah, we're here every week. So looking forward to your questions next week. You still have a bug with disappearing icons. Okay, cool. Do you want to hop back in, Anton, and we can go through it? I'll put a link back in the chat if you need it again. Maybe we can resolve it here. Hello again.
Hello again. I need to switch off the sound of YouTube and share my screen. I need to reshare to show the browser instead of one window. Entire screen, window, this one. So we have these answers in the project. I can log in into the account which has answers.
I like your Toastify component, by the way.
Thank you.
I was funny enough. I was just messing around with this at the weekend. Is that a custom coded component, or how did you set it up?
I have two components actually. One component, yeah, I have created Toastify components coded with the AI, but previously I've used Toaster as a JavaScript function, but component is really useful. I've saved another password. It's a course of demo session.
Exactly. It's never going to go 100% perfectly.
Okay. So we have a lot of icons here. They are imported via new custom icons. I've created a ticket about the renaming of the imported icons, where I have underscore here. When imported, it's modified to hyphen instead.
Okay.
And then we have these icons in the editor when we can deploy it once again.
And then I guess in the deployed one, they're not showing up. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only one is shown. For no reason. I have no idea why.
Could you right click and inspect the page for me, please? Like where you've got one that isn't appearing?
They used on the first screen and the second screen, you're the same icon.
Could you I guess there's supposed to be an icon beside motivator as well, right? And like each title.
Yes, it takes the strange name from the database and then just use this ID as an ID of an icon.
Okay. Could you, in the inspector, there's an arrow pointing to a square in the very top left?
Can you see my browser?
Yes, I can see it. In the very top left, there's a button. Beside in the top left of the inspector, sorry. Yeah, that one. If you click that, and now, so it's got an SVG. Okay, cool. And if you hover somewhere where there's supposed to be an icon, but we can't see it for some reason, could you click onto that for me? And then on the right, if you expand that div you've got selected, so you kind of you click the arrow, the chevron.
Let's go to the different screen. It's less.
Yeah, if you expand this one, I'm just trying to tell if there's actually an SVG inside here. Okay, there's not.
There's no SVG.
There's the icon element. Okay, that's interesting. And you mentioned whenever you uploaded these, the naming changed, right? So it changed
Yeah,
from.
but it was working, but maybe last week it stopped working without any changes in this
Okay,
component.
that's very odd then, unfortunately.
The component, no code component, and inside this component, I provide the name of the icon
Yeah.
like this,
Okay, yeah, that's very odd.
and,
Yeah.
and having this backend underscore inside the component, I have the replacement.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, I think that will be one the team will have to look at because, yeah, as you saw, it's not actually rendering that SVG at all, it seems, in the HTML. So it does seem like it's just an issue on our side, unfortunately, and I can't do much to help you. Apologies.
Yeah. So okay, I'm waiting for your answer. I'm waiting for your support tickets.
Apologies, I couldn't help.
Okay, no problem. Then I still can't remember any of other questions, and
No worries.
I have to leave.
No worries. Right. As I say, I'll be here for the next like 45 minutes or so. So any more questions, you're more than welcome to join back.
Okay.
Cool. Right.
Thank you.
Bye. Anton, if you're still here, I'd be really curious. You mentioned you use Toastify to generate. Sorry, you mentioned you use the AI to generate that Toastify component. In the prompt, did you just tell it that you wanted it to use Toastify? Did you pass in like an example from the Toastify docs? What generally did that prompt look like? You got another question? Good. I can ask you now, I guess, when you join. I'll put the link in the chat for you. I've asked if it's possible to create a drop down which adopts the viewport and can change its direction. Okay. Maybe you can, that makes sense. I can probably share my screen and go through it now, actually. So I've asked, is it possible to create a drop down which adapts to a viewport and can change its direction? So I assume you mean as in like, you joined me. Okay, cool. There you go.
I'm here. I haven't heard your question for me. I've muted YouTube just before I joined. Can
No
you please
worries.
repeat about the Testify?
Yes. So I was curious for your Toastify component.
Mhm.
What did your prompt look like? Did you tell it to use the Toastify library? Did you give in like an example of the implementation code, or?
I've sent a Toastify library documentation link. I've sent Toastify example of usage into the chat, and maybe twice or triple times I fixed some small things like it didn't follow the colors I set in the color mode. It didn't follow the colors of the dark and light mode, and maybe I'll ask him to follow the color of the theme from the WeWeb site, because WeWeb supports themes, but Toastify requires to set which theme you want to use, and I want to update it to make it follow the rules of the WeWeb theme. The question is, we have now drop-down component, and when the drop-down, when we set drop-down but to the bottom downside, if there is no space on the bottom, it either create a gap, wide gap without any content to show the component, or if we have clipping overflow hidden, it will go under the visible field and will not show the component. Some UI kits handle this problem, and if you have not enough space in the middle, in the bottom, it's turned upside. Is it possible to create this in WeWeb? We have maybe custom components. I'm trying to do it with this this way, but maybe it will be really nice to have it inside WeWeb itself.
I agree. That is one thing we unfortunately don't have on any of the native elements, but it's definitely possible. Probably the easiest way to do it is custom components, as you mentioned. You definitely could achieve it. Thinking about it, I've never attempted it, but you probably could, if you tried long enough, get it to work fully inside of the editor without using custom code. You would just need to figure out, it wouldn't be easy, but you could probably figure out, however it's done in code. By that I mean like figuring out how based on the viewport
to tell all the logic to the AI to the AI, but it didn't succeed. I understand how it should work, but AI still didn't get my point of view how it should be created. So I asked AI. So the ideal way of getting this done is to set the connection point from the trigger and connection point from the menu. And when you don't have enough space on the bottom or on the left, on the right, you have to switch the position on the side where you don't have this place. For example, if you don't have place below, you have to switch your connection point from the right and left top to the bottom right and left, right and left. So the menu will show upside. And if you have this in some left or right side, it should be moved to the other side. Another way I've seen the implementation of this, it was just moving like a sticky mode with the display fixed if something goes out of the display. But I don't like this way of working. It can create some collisions with different other elements.
It's definitely possible because I achieved this a few weeks back. So I created a custom component, and it was a drop down, and it followed the positioning available in the viewport, so it would change its position. The one thing is it didn't have a drop zone, so you couldn't drag things into it. That was the one problem. So the reason I say that is because I was thinking I could share it with you, But the problem is the one I have, it doesn't have a drop zone, which is probably a problem for your use case. But if you want, I can share the custom component with you after this. I can take your details, and then you can use that as kind of a reference, perhaps.
Yeah, it will be nice. I'll try to modify it or adapt to my question.
Super. No way. Feel free to put some kind of, in our private chat in the lobby, feel free to put something I can contact you on after this, and I will send you like the GitHub repo for the custom component.
I'm not sure you will see it, but
yeah, no, I've got it. I'll make a note of it.
That's my partner account, and you can contact me.
Super.
Something else, but I still can remember. It's better to jump in when I'll figure out my question.
No worries. Cool. I mean, as I'm here, I'll because there's no one else asking anything, I'll try and dig that out for you now, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. if you're still here, Anton, I'll just quickly share my screen and show you what it was. So it wasn't a drop down, it was actually a select I created something for. It's this one. So it was just the shad CN library. I was trying to use its select, and I was just messing around with it as a custom component. So this is a custom component. And so when I open it, it opens beneath. But if I put it to the bottom of the page and then open it, it opens above. So this did, it's aware of obviously the viewport constraints, but it was a select instead of a drop down. But still, I'll send this to you just so you can use it as inspiration, because maybe it's useful. Is it possible to work around the classic CSS problem when you need a horizontal scroll, but can't use the drop down in the table call? It's possible to work with classic CSS problem when you need. I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Anton. Sorry. It might be another one where it's better to go through it in person, unfortunately. Sorry, I know you have to keep rejoining and joining and leaving and everything. In the table cell? As in like the table element we have in the just the add panel, that one? Hello again.
I'm your flashing guest.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, it's way easier to do it this way.
Yeah, okay. It's just complicated to me to figure out the question while I'm online.
Yeah.
So we have a really wide table which
Uh-huh.
exceeds the borders of the page, and we have to enable the overflow scroll X. But even if we have only one overflow enabled, scroll enabled, when we, for example, put drop down on the right side to edit, move, or some kind of actions, typical situation. If it's on the lowest row, the table will be extended with a wide field, and still your drop down will be inside this frame, scrollable frame. And I wonder, maybe it's possible to get some viewport position to show it not inside the table, but somewhere on the on another layer, on another position, but keeping this position, knowing where it should be, but without placing it inside the table, which is scrollable.
Yes, give me just 1 second. I'll try and get up something to show you. You're 100% correct. What you could do is you could get something like this. What's the best way to do this? Maybe this. Give me just 1 second before I share my screen. I'll make sure this works. Apologies, Anton. Give me just 1 second.
No problem. Do you plan to allow WeWeb AI to create Supabase backend functions and things like Slavo do?
They currently can actually, or it currently can. So whenever you have you tried the backend panel? So there's a backend button in the top
Yeah,
bar.
I've seen the backend panel, but I didn't figure out how can I use it.
So whenever you if you add, do we have a video on this yet? We might have in one of the release videos. I might have had added like a short snippet that shows you how to use it. I'll dig that up in a second. But basically, once you've gone through the Supabase SSO, like you press backend, then you integrate it with Supabase. Whenever you type something into the AI chat, it then has access to like a Supabase agent. So if it thinks you're asking it to do something in Supabase, it will interact with it. So once you've integrated with Supabase, you could say like, create me a table for customers with the columns X, Y, and Z, and it will generate you a Supabase query, which you can then ask it to deploy, and it will then create the table. But you can do that for everything. So you can do it for edge functions. You can do it for like the regular Postgres functions they have. You can do it for a bunch of stuff. It's quite cool. It's there. It's not perfect, but there is like a V0 version of it we have right now.
That's really nice to try it.
Yes, I think I've got the thing that I need to show you for this.
I'm now trying to find a way of authenticating users in Supabase without custom providers and login passwords. I found one extension on DBDev for the API-based authentication. And if you know the Telegram Messenger, they have Telegram mini apps, and you can validate the data using the bot API and having the user data. So I want it's backend sided to receive the API key as a way of authenticating inside WeWeb to be able to work with this.
Nice.
So, because if you don't have any way of authenticating without username and the password, you can use row level security, and you're very limited in Supabase.
Yeah. No, so potentially, I mean, it's something I need to mess around with a bit more to fully, because I'm more of a Xano user than a Supabase user. So I haven't actually, in truth, experimented very much with the AI and Supabase. I just know it's capable of, interacting with it. So it might fit the use case. I'm not too sure. It just probably would require some experimentation. I'll share my screen quickly just to show you what I was talking about. So the premise is this. So there's two ways to do it, I think. So one thing you can do is whenever you add a name or an ID, to an element, you can watch the scroll position. I don't know if you've experimented with this too much. And then whenever you
have coordinates.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the X and Y coordinates. The one problem you would have with this is because I'm guessing you obviously have repeating elements in the table. I don't think this works for repeating elements. So what you'll have to do is something like this. So I've got just an example workflow, and then I have some JavaScript. What you can do is you can get the bounding client React. So like as you said, the coordinates, but it's better to do it in JavaScript, because if you do it in JavaScript this way, it will work if you're dynamically creating the items in a list. So here, I'm just getting the ID of the element. How I'm doing this is using the instance. You mentioned you were using the instance. What I'm doing here is I've just got
with a direct access to the
exactly. Then then .id. And then I'm just saying target element equals, and this is this is a WeWeb specific thing. Again, I'm not too sure if you're aware of this, but this is something just takes time to get familiar with. So usually this would be document dot, but it's a nuanced thing of WeWeb. You want to use this. So here it just gets the document, gets the element, and then obviously gets the element by the ID, which is what we got here. By the sounds of it, I think you're a bit of a developer, so I think you kind of know what's going on here. You probably don't need like a massive.
We're getting first we're getting the DOM element, and then we're trying to get this element from the WeWeb view application as I get it.
Exactly, yeah. And so then whenever because I get the element, I then get the bounding client React, which is just, as you said, the coordinates, and then I return it. So whenever I run this in the bottom left here, you see I get these. And so you could, as you mentioned at the start, you definitely had the right idea. You could have like a drop down with a fixed position. And then whenever you press the open button, you could just do this, get the coordinates of whichever button was clicked, use the X and Y coordinates, and then change the positioning of your fixed positioned drop down accordingly.
But we'll need to have some observer to keep track of scrolling. So if the table position will change, we will have another coordinates, and then we'll need something to update this position of the.
Potentially, yes. So you would need to. Yeah. Depends, I guess, how you want to do the UX for it. If you wanted to do it as nicely as that, you could. Or I guess a simple solution could be like if you scroll, maybe you just hide the drop down. It depends.
Yeah.
It depends how perfect you want the UX to be, but you're right. If you want it to be the creme de la creme, where if they scroll, it tracks their scroll, you would need some kind of observer, unfortunately.
Yeah, got it. So it's easier to hide, yeah.
Is it easy to hide?
Yeah, ideal way is to move with the table, but you gave me a good idea of how to work around this.
Yeah, you could just have like a page workflow, and then you could have like on page scroll, and on page scroll you could just change your display variable for the drop down. Maybe that would work.
When we open this drop down, we can put the information about the coordinates into the WeWeb variable, and when we scroll, we can update it using this ID and all the data, just calling this function again with this ID, but updating coordinates.
You know what? That's a very good idea. I've never tried that, but maybe you could. You could potentially on page scroll.
I'm using this way for my 2D metrics, just because I need something to be draggable, and it was very hard to make it work. But it works, but with some discrete actions somewhere, and I think that's because we have some lag between the coordinates saving and coordinates gating. Because first save the value and then get back the position of the elements to update this position.
Yeah.
So it continuously writes the information, but returns to the front-end side with a small delay.
Yep, that's a very good idea. In truth, I've never actually tried that. If I've resorted to this, I've always just on scroll hidden it because it was just easier to implement. But actually, you've made a very good point. You might be able to do that. I've never tried it. On scroll, you could just recall the function, and if the drop down is open, just keep recalling it and updating it, as you said. That probably would work.
On scroll, yeah. I can try it.
Cool.
Another question solved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Hey, Spotyon. Yes, no problem. It's you can either put it in the chat, Spotyon, Or if it's easier to explain in person, you're more than welcome to join me. I'll put a link to join the lobby in the chat, whichever's easiest. You can put it in the chat if it's easy to explain in text. If not, you're more than welcome to join me. Hello from Alberta. Hello, Paul. You're a data analyst student. Nice. Can I describe how you can get a job? Unfortunately, Spotty on this probably isn't the best place for that. I'm not qualified in any way to be a career advisor. How you can best get a job as a data analyst, I'm not too sure, unfortunately. Yeah, I can't give you advice, and unfortunately, that one, Spotty on this probably isn't the best place. If you mean in terms of how you could get a job with WeWeb, then my advice would probably be to get in touch with a member of the team. I'm not in any recruitment position, so probably just get in touch. I think on I'll try and see if on our website we have a general contact email. It's best to get in touch that way. I don't handle recruitment at all. So if you were interested in actually joining the team, that's the best way to go about it. I'll try and find that email for you. Yeah, Slanton's good, Anton. Slavo is good, Anton. Sorry, that was like a baby between Slavo and Anton. Slavo is good. He's in Milan right now for No Code Week, and I think he's at a Zano party. Definitely sober. So no, he's enjoying himself. He's good. He'll be back next week. I put a link in the chat, Spotyon, if you are interested. That's our careers page. Unfortunately, there isn't any positions right now, but there's a contact us link. So if you would like to get in touch with the team, the link is there for you. The second time he's absent. Yes, I know he was off last week, just on holiday, and this week he's in Milan for the No Code Week. I'm not jealous in any way, shape, or form. Hey, Extreme, yeah, that's the idea. You can just pop a question in the chat, or you can actually join. You can join me in here if it's easier to ask it in person. I've just popped the link in the chat for you if you'd like to join and go through it in person. But you can put a question in the chat or join me in person, and then we go through it here. That's the idea. We're almost up. We do this for an hour. So we started roughly 57 minutes ago. We've got a few minutes left. So if you have a question, you're more than welcome to pop it in and we can go through it quickly. But we do this at the same time every Tuesday. What is WeWeb? WeWeb is a low-code builder, Spotyon. It's a front-end low-code builder. Is WeWeb often used for internal tools? Yes, Paul. It can be used for pretty much anything. Any kind of web application that you can think of, it could be used for. So any day-to-day apps that you use, chances are it can be built in WeWeb. But in terms of like business applications, a lot of the time it is used for internal tools. Companies use some kind of typical software like Salesforce, for example, and they pay a bunch of money for it, too much money at times, and they only use a couple of the features. So it's a very common use case where people will create internal tools, custom-made internal tools for whatever their specific use case is. No, there is no basic questions. Any questions, you're more than welcome to ask it. That's what we're here for at the end of the day. Because when you're just starting, there's so much going on in the editor that it can be difficult to know where to start sometimes. So even if you're just curious of the place to start or whatever you think is a basic question, you're more than welcome to ask it. There is no basic questions. Hi, Pierre. I didn't really look into the new grid component. Is it now possible to filter data from backend directly from the front end, or should I still create a view in Supabase? So it depends if you're asking that from a performance perspective or a data security perspective. So the data grid can't directly filter data from the backend. Whatever you load into the data grid and whatever filters you apply, it only just filters the data that you have on the front end, meaning it's loaded into the browser. And so if someone knows what they're doing, they could inspect everything. So there's a data security concern. But in terms of performance, it's very good at filtering. So if your filters are only doing filters for performance reasons, you might not necessarily actually need them any longer. You could just load all the data into the front end, again, assuming there's no security issues with that, put it into the data grid, and then any filtering it does, it's very performative. It's very much like a backend filter, performance-wise, but again, there's security concerns that can come with it. You don't want to load in data into the front end that you don't want everyone to see. And the new data grid also has what's called virtual loading. So it basically only renders rows that are in view, which is very good for performance. So you could have 10,000 rows in the data grid, sorry, but it's still very performative because the only rows it actually renders are the ones in view. So that's why the performance for filtering is pretty much, if not better, than backend filtering. Yes, I agree, Anton. That would be very nice, but unfortunately, it's probably not something to expect anytime soon, just because of how much is on the roadmap at the minute. But I agree, it's definitely one for the future. I also use the JavaScript data source for some testing. Cool, so that is us for the hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you especially to Anton for getting us through the first 40 minutes. As always, we'll be here same time next week, every Tuesday. We can go through any questions you may have. I think Slavo would be back with me next week, so it'll be a party. Thank you so much, everyone. As I say, we'll be here same time next Tuesday. Cheers.